folks, Gavin here. Once again, Michael Valadares. Oh, sorry, I've murdered your surname, Michael.
No, you've got it right.
Yeah. So this is kind of a new update interview. So if you don't know, check our channel. We did the last interview we did was around 2 months ago, and Michael kind of shared a lot about his journey. It taken him around 9 months or so to really get things going. But the kind of, I guess, to summarize that conversation, a lot of focus, a lot of intensity to kind of really get things moving. Now, we're around 2 months or so later from that time frame, and Michael's just funding multiple deals now. So last 30 days is 3 deals with us. He does a bit of equipment financing as well and a few other things. So what we're going to dig into today is really, well, what's happened from 2 months ago, say, to today, because he's achieved that main objective. Michael just shared one of his goals with me, which I think is brilliant. I want to share it with you. So in his first 9 months, he did X amount of activity and funded deals. And he set a goal of in the last 3 months, the quarter, to actually achieve either the same or more than he did in the first 9 months. And he's already halfway through achieving those goals. So in the last sort of half of that quarter, he's already achieved half of what he did in the first 9 months. So he's definitely well on his way. We're going to dig into all of that in this conversation. So Michael, welcome. Thanks for your time. I think just to kind of kick this off, really, can you kind of just give us a, what's really happened in the last few months that's kind of just all of a sudden created this boom of activity and momentum?
It's just I've been having the pipeline filled, with applications, with leads, sometimes call-ins, getting referrals, people that I'm connected with a few months ago reaching out to me, just following up with people has paid off big and starting new conversations. So it's just, it's been exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. I know it hasn't, because it's always funny when you're from the outside looking in, you always sort of see people's activity and all of a sudden there's this boom moment, which is kind of happening. And you don't really appreciate what's been going into making that happen, because it's almost like, oh, it's just been working, all of a sudden it's happening. But you mentioned there a second ago that the follow-ups has been a big part of, what's sort of going on right now. So how do you do that? I mean, do you make that like a thing that you do? Like it's an actual conscious thing that there's a certain part of your day or your week that is following up, or is it ad hoc? How do you kind of plan that out?
It depends on what the person is interested in. A lot of times I'll ask them what they got going on, and if they tell me, hey, I'm working on this project now that's already funded, but in 4 months from now I'll probably be looking for next one, then I'll just make a note, put a deadline date in my tracker, and follow up with the person. If I know that I didn't close a deal with them, but I'll check a couple weeks later to see how things go, see what's going on. So it's mainly forcing myself to follow up and having a solid plan and tailoring it to each specific individual. For me, it's like you can't say you're going to follow up with everybody once a month, because that's not going to work. You're going to just spin your wheels. So I try to be strategic in my follow up. So yeah.
Okay, well, that's a perfectly good answer there. I just want to make a note for you guys watching this, and maybe if you've not even become a broker, you'll hear a lot of our talk about following up. And this is I don't think there's like any scientific study on this, but I always kind of take the view that 80% of the profit that you ever make comes because of the following up. Because as you know, when you're doing outreach, a lot of the time, unless you're lucky and you're in the right place, right time, you get that kind of perfect client that's like, right, I've got the deal, let's go, I need it funded. But a lot of the time it's the nurturing, isn't it? It's that repetitiveness of following up, of keeping in touch with these different people for when the next one lands. And if you do that diligently, you are then in the right place at the right time for that particular deal. And the reason I want to stress this, guys, is that it seems so easy, but Michael kind of said, I forced myself to do it. It's one of the easiest things to overlook and forget to do. I think it's easy to get caught up in the hustle of doing what you need to do every single day. You tend to forget the fact that doing that is giving you these touch points, these new engagements, if you like, with potential new clients. And there's a lot of data and opportunity there that is often just forgotten about as each week and month goes by. So the reason I'm saying this is that a big part of what Michael's experiencing now with the boom is because he's just diligently following up. He has a strategy around it. He knows who's saying what, when that person may have that potential new deal, and he's there so that he is the first person. And you could say, you know, that's the sort of scenario where from the outside looking in, people go, well, he's just lucky. He gets lucky all the time. And you create your own luck. You make your own luck. And that's exactly what Michael's doing right now with that work. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, you know, and I wasn't always good at following up in, you know, my first year and a half. So I am going back through my CRM and making sure that I have a plan for each and every individual. You know, it is time consuming, but I know it's going to pay off, you know, to re-engage with people on a constant basis. So
it's absolutely true. It's like, not that I've ever been a gold miner, but I've watched the Discovery Channel a few times, and you see what those guys do. You know, you're panning for gold. You're looking for these little nuggets all of the time. But if you do it enough, they mount up and they become something big. So if you correlate that to what is essentially data when you're doing your kind of mining for leads and deals, there's so much value and opportunity in that. That, like to your point, if you do, the longer you do it, the more opportunity that data that you collect, if you're disciplined with collecting it and categorizing it, etc., the better your future opportunities become, the more money you start to make. And that's the thing I think people just overlook. They look at, like, you know, what's the point of recording that information? Or there's just a list of names, it's meaningless. But it's absolute opportunity and gold if you're a loan broker, and you're proving that to be true right now.
yeah, especially if you're going to be a loan broker and do various types of funding. You know, you want to know what that person is doing, you know, what type of industry they're in. Are they just a business owner? Are they a business owner and a real estate investor? Or are they just a fix and flipper? You know, because if you send them an email about working capital, you know, a real estate investor is going to be like, I don't need that. What's the point? So, you know, categorizing everybody on the type of lead is I think, key to knowing what type of messaging you're going to send to that person. And, you know, there's many occasions where I'll just take a half an hour each day to send specialized, you know, type out emails that are specific to that individual, you know, just, hey, how things are going on whatever it is, you know. So I kind of tailor my messaging towards my notes.
And that's, again, it's absolutely the stuff that you should be doing. And again, you're proving that it works. You know, this again goes to a lot of the videos we have on the channel where we talk about, it's not necessarily niching down, but it's the understanding of your audience. Who are you actually trying to target, and how do you actually talk to them so that they do have that kind of trust and credibility factor when they look at you? And you're absolutely right. Again, it's knowing what you're doing. It's knowing the products that you're offering, knowing the types of people that take the products, and knowing that, understanding their business. And when you get all of those things right, the ducks line up, you just get engagement all of a sudden. And all of these kind of the challenges, the objections that the kind of newer brokers kind of experience, they're never there anymore, are they? You don't ever really come across the, well, justify your existence to me. Where are your testimonials? Who are you? Can I speak to other clients? All of those kind of things. And actually, perhaps you could speak to that. Do you really encounter those kind of problems anymore doing what you do?
Not really. I mean, I've encountered some here and there, and you know, I kind of just kind of fly over it. You know, it's like, well, I don't know you either, so but this is what I need. If you want to,
exactly,
this is what I need to get a quote for you. You know, and just take it from there and what I can do for them. And you know, 9 times out of 10, they're probably somebody just shopping around and not really serious, or not really knowing the industry itself on how to protect themselves. So sometimes it's just, hey, well, I've had investors tell me this, but this is what I told them, you know, how to protect themselves. And, you know, I just go over it and then just take the conversation in another direction that's beneficial to me. And it's worked really well.
How do you do that? Like, how do you, because that's a challenge for a lot of people, I find, that when you've got that kind of, how do I put it? Like that dominant type of personality that's kind of like, well, you know, why should I be giving you my business? And you just made the point. A lot of the time, these people are shopping anyway. They're not even serious. So there's a lot of wasted time for brokers. Like, how have you managed that?
it's one of the things I learned from the leadership team in Ion Capital Solutions and my team manager, team leader, is sometimes you just got to throw customer service out the door. You know, it's, I don't know you, you don't know me, you're right. But I don't even know if you're qualified for what we offer. So, you know, and a lot of times I just take the conversation somewhere else, you know, and
they follow you, don't they?
They follow,
yeah.
You know, if not, you move on to the next one, and then you just follow up with the individual, you know, with a different type of messaging.
Yeah,
you know? So,
exactly. It's a great way to indirectly call people out when you do it that way, you know, because you know, at the end of the day, that if they're genuine, they're there because they want funding, and you know you can get them the funding. So it's having that confidence in yourself that you know what you're doing. There's the first thing, but then that comes across in the way you deliver that. I find, and those that are genuine will pay attention to that, and that's why they follow. Versus those that really were just shopping around and not really serious, well, they're not going to follow because there's nothing in it for them either, you know. So it's a really good way, I find, to like separate the crowd. Who should I really be investing time with here because they're serious, versus who's just wasting my time. So just cut into the chase straight away like that, and as you say, drop the customer service, get to the point. Are you here, and are you serious or not? And if you're not, bye. If you are, come and let's talk business, let's go do something, you know. So that's working out for you really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think people really appreciate it, and you know, they appreciate the honesty. You know, yeah. I call myself a commercial loan broker. That's what I am. You know, I don't try to throw no fancy names on there or anything like that. And yeah. Nobody's ever given me an issue about it. You know, yeah. It just I think they appreciate the honesty and being upfront about what I do. You know, so.
This is brilliant. When we had I don't want to go too deep into this because it can kind of get into personal things, but we had a mindset session, didn't we, a little while back? Can you kind of tell the folks high level what was kind of going on and how that's helped you with what's going on for you today, and obviously what you're going to do going forward?
I had a you know, personal issues going on. And it was kind of making me question what I was doing, if I was, you know, cut out to be a commercial loan broker. And I was doubting myself, you know, and me even being a 23-year Marine Corps veteran, retired Marine, you would think that somebody like me wouldn't need mindset training, but sometimes, you know, you always need that refresher training, or hear what you already know in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's where I still, you know, even though with all what's been going on the last couple months of the deals getting funded, I sat in the last mindset training just to give Patrick, you know, an update of where I am. And I still learned something new that I implemented this week on what Patrick taught to help another of our brokers.
That's you mentioned the self-doubt thing, and also like you were a Marine, you would, as you say, you would think from the outside in that you've got that stuff locked down. And what I try and say to everybody is that we're all human beings, and you're right. Again, it's not necessarily teaching you things that you don't know, because a lot of this stuff is common sense. It's just reminding you of the same sort of stuff, right? Self-doubt's real. Everyone goes through it. Even like, not that I know any billionaires, but everybody, whatever the success level they're at, they all have self-doubt. And I think it's a natural human condition. But what I think separates the winners from the losers is those that recognize it, that don't accept it, and then they go do something about it, which is what you've done. And it's paying off, because you've gone from a position of self-doubt, am I even cut out to be a commercial loan broker, to this point now. Let me ask you that question. What would your answer be right now if I said, are you cut out to be a commercial loan broker?
Oh yeah, I know I am. I mean,
there you go, right?
It's a passion for me now. You know, it's like, you know, quitting was never an option, but you know, my mind was playing tricks on me, so to speak.
And that's the thing. And that, like, it honestly, it blows my mind how many people don't think of this as the most important tool to everything that we do in life, you know. And I think if you think about your situation, I mean, that conversation was what, 3 months ago, something like that. Not that, you know, let's be real, guys. Michael hasn't all of a sudden developed these amazing skill sets in the last, say, 3 months that have been conducive to him being successful. It's all up there. It's not that he hasn't had to learn anything new. He's just adjusted the way he's thinking and the way he's approaching this business. And that's coming across in the way he's delivering himself, and his clients are responding accordingly. And therefore the results are happening. This stuff is not rocket science. And actually, perhaps back that statement up, this stuff really isn't rocket science, is it?
No, it's not. And it's just, you know, I tell even other brokers is that you just got to think outside the box. You got to make adjustments. If something's not working, you got to figure out, what am I doing? You know, and, you know, one of my mentors told me that you got to go find the deals. Don't let the deals come to you. You go find them. You go find the deals that, you know, your funders love to fund. And, you know, I see so many brokers wanting to just sit there and put a Facebook ad and then wonder why they can't fund deals. And it's like, it doesn't, you know, it may work for some, but it's not going to pay the bills all the time. You've got to be able to generate your own leads.
It's that mentality of, I did a video, I don't know if the video came across too well. It was the last one I put up, and I called rabbits or wolves. You know, are you a rabbit or are you a wolf? And what I was trying to say is, to your point there, that you've got to go find the deals, which means you've got to have that hunter type mentality. You know, you're going out there to hunt your own food, right? Versus that, you know, not to be too disparaging, but the rabbits of the world, as you say, that they, you know, they put some ads up, they do these things, and they sit back and kind of wait for everything to come to them. Life never works that way. So why the hell is this going to be any different, you know? And it's that mentality of, and I don't even know how to explain it, and it's perhaps a good sort of segue into this, is that how do you develop that mentality of, you have to go find your food, like you have to go get your deals, you have to get your clients. It's an adjustment, isn't it? Especially when you've come from that 9-to-5 world where, you know, you've been in a sandbox that's got all of these different systems and structure in, where perhaps the mentality of getting up every day to go feed yourself, it's a different game, isn't it? It's a different kind of mindset. Like how would you explain that?
Well, you know, I was a Marine recruiter, so I had to go out and find kids, so, you know, to join the Marines. But since our last conversation and even the last video, you know, the light bulb hit my head, and I treat it as fishing. You know, I got to go find the fish. I've got to go throw lures to catch the fish. So I'm throwing, you know, emails, messaging to people on social media to see if they bite, you know, and if they don't bite, then maybe I got to change the message, or maybe I got to change on where I'm looking at for these specific contacts. You know, that is how I've been thinking about being a loan broker. As you know, I'm a fisherman. I love fishing.
Perfect.
Fishing is my passion. So,
yeah.
You know, it's completely changed my whole mindset. You know,
is it really?
I know that if I talk to at least 50 people a day, there's going to be at least one or two that I'm going to catch. You know, am I going to fund them? No, but it's, you know, the building up and continuing to reach out to people and fishing for them. You know,
that's the, do you, like, for me, that's the key thing of all of this. It's not so much the funding the deals, because as you say, you might catch them. I mean, I'll try and shift the analogy from fishing to funding, but you might be catching them. Doesn't mean you're going to cook them. It doesn't mean you're going to fund the deals.
Yeah.
Right? But it's the actual, for me personally, my buzz comes in the fishing piece. It comes in the hooking. It comes in working out which bait worked, which didn't work. What have I got to tweak here? It comes in the dialing in of getting it right, because I know if I do that enough times, I'm making money. That I don't need to think about that part of it. Whereas I find a lot of brokers, they get stuck and they're focused on the, how do I make the money? How am I funding the deals? Why are the deals not funding? And I kind of find that that's the wrong place to be looking, right? It's, to your point, it's the hunt.
It is, you know, and the first week of November, I was out fishing all week with a bunch of fellow veterans, you know, and I had a big fish on the line, and I had to basically run halfway down the pier and my line broke, you know. So I equate that to is, you got an application, he's approved, but you know, yeah. It doesn't, he changes his mind or something happens, you know. and you don't get the deal. So you got to retie your lawyers and everything. And, you got to rethink what went wrong and then go find somebody else, So,
And so that epiphany's only really recently hit you. Yet how long have you been doing this now? A couple of years or so?
2 years, just over 2 years.
But it's only happened now. Like was there a sequence of events where that kind of came together and you had that light bulb moment, or?
It was our conversation 3 months ago where, the reason why I'm doing this, and I got to do it for me, not because I want to help people or anything like that, not because what it's going to do for other people, but what is this going to do for me in my future? And at the same time, knowing what I know now, I want to become a real estate investor. So everything that I make in my loan brokering is going to be going to real estate investing, so that is what I want for me, so that's kind of my drive. And I never used the fishing analogy until our last video. That's just how my mind works. Yeah. I come up with these good ideas just on the spot, and it's like ever since then, it's been, wow, it makes sense to me, for me,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few truth bombs in here, guys, because there's another point that Michael's made there. It's having a purpose. And I think a lot of people initially start loan brokering as, get out of the 9 to 5, whatever that reason is. But the purpose behind it is to make money. I want to make 10K. But to your point there, it's not enough of a reason to solve the problems you're inevitably going to face to actually get this thing working. There has to be a deeper purpose to push through all of that. And we talk about it to so many videos, and I think some people get it, some people don't. And I don't think that you're really going to get it until you're doing it. But Michael, again, has the purpose because he wants to be a real estate investor. There's a bigger objective at the end of this for you than making money, right? When you achieve the objective of becoming a real estate investor, you've clearly made money along the route anyway. So the money piece is the byproduct of having the purpose of getting your head down and really going for it. And that's your point. It is all about you, because if you aren't motivated, if you aren't doing the right things every single day, then the clients don't, excuse my French, they don't give a crap about you, really. They care about what you can do for them. So that purpose has got to start internally and with you, and it's got to be about changing whatever it is you want to change in your life. So would you agree on that? I mean, do you think that that's been the shift for you, that you've got a clearer understanding of where you're going yourself, as opposed to let's just make some money and fund some deals?
Yes, I do have a more clear, set goals of what I want to do and where I want to take myself, because I just want that, financial freedom. And I know it's going to come with a lot of hard work, but I see it paying off, so.
Absolutely. And then before we kind of went and did the recording here, you were sort of saying, you've got the activity now, you've got the boom moment. The next sort of phase of this is the consistency piece, isn't it? It's keeping that going. So on that note, I mean, do you feel the things that you're doing now are conducive to that, to keep the wheels turning and actually get them turning faster?
Yeah, they are. I was thinking that this week was a rough week. I'd funded these deals, and I had a couple that were in my pipeline but didn't get funded. And then I was like, man, I got to get something going. And then lo and behold, I get an application in, from an email campaign, so, and talked to the investor the following day, and we might be getting a second one for a short-term rental. So we'll see.
This is what made me smile. Then is you've had from my perspective, you've had a great week. You've been funding multiple deals, and yet, guys, Michael's looking at it. I've had a bad week because he's looking at the things he didn't fund, forgetting about the thing. No, not forgetting. Like, this is what I'm trying to say. When it's working, you're not really worried about what's funding. It's where can I improve? What didn't happen? Where am I getting the next thing from?
Yes.
Because the funding, the making of the money, is the default of the activity that you put in, right?
Right. I don't count any of the ones that are in my pipeline. I'm looking for the next one.
Next one, yeah. Huge shift in your mindset, because that's exactly how it is, isn't it?
Yep.
This is brilliant. So what's the target then? Next 3 months? Let's kind of set this up, because it'd be great to do another interview in another 3 months' time.
Well, the I did a million 70 in the first 9 months. Right now, I am just over halfway through that I think I'm at 700,000
Wow.
or 600,000. I'd have to look. I don't remember off the top of my head. So I've got to step it up for the next 30 days, because, once holidays come, it can be a little bit tough, because, typically in a normal economic situation, equipment financing should be hot this time of the year, because the end of the tax season. But, with all these shortages, it's hard to say. So just got to step it up.
On that note, I mean, so what could you say to people that are looking at sort of loan brokering as a profession? And, let's look at the bigger, wider economic conditions. There's, we've got this COVID stuff going on. There's a lot of sort of things going on in the world. And that is definitely impacting us, right? We've got the supply chain crisis now kicking off. And as you mentioned about equipment, what's your view on the whole thing? I mean, does this put you off loan brokering, or do you still see huge opportunity going forward?
I still see huge opportunity going forward. I could even say, compared to like last year, when I started with Ion, that made me realize to shift from anything that deals with collateral. So I stopped doing working capital loans, line of credits, because all the funders stopped funding for a certain amount of time. And then even when they started, their requirements were still, high. So, I mean, I'll do it if I get, if I come across it, but it's not something that I'm actively targeting, so even with the equipment financing, we knew that certain industries were going to start to pick up. So we adjusted which type of equipment that we target based off of what's going on. So it's always looking at the economic situation worldwide now, and even how it affects the U.S. economy, and just adjusting. It's how you have to be fluid and flexible. And I even say you got to be fluid and flexible with the economy in your prospecting, in your messaging, how you're doing things. You just got to be able to adjust. I know brokers that were still thinking, what do I do? Because LinkedIn has this weekly maximum number of connections. And I'm like, I already adjusted 2 months ago, so it didn't really affect me. I just changed how I do things, so it's just, you got to adjust. You got to be flexible. You got to think outside the box. And, any training can get you the basics, but you still have to seek out more information and continue to grow.
100%, 100% agree. I always think like money always flows, doesn't it? And we always say this a lot. And to your point with that adjustment, being a loan broker, it's not just about, if I do enough advertising, if I speak to enough people, I'm going to make a bunch of money, because you could be speaking to a lot of people and wasting and spinning your wheels. And to your point, working capital, lines of credit, there's still people out there, working leads that want that stuff. They're never going to get anything funded. It's just like it's a race to the bottom. So being a loan broker is also about being worldly wise to what else is going on. It's paying attention to the things that are going on in the world, because that affects capitalism, that affects business, that affects people with wealth and where they put that money. And then you've got to like reverse engineer that to us, whereby, okay, where am I going to get my money then? And to your point then, so with equipment, not all, restaurants used to be great for equipment, right? That's right. No longer the case. I mean, that used to be really, really no brainer to go to restaurants. Now you'd be really silly to go that direction. So it's paying attention to things, and to Michael's point, adjusting. You've got to go with the flow and just observe things, and don't be scared. We see a lot of other people as well. Sometimes they don't even start this industry because of their concerns about the economy. And I just think that's ridiculous. It's like, guys, unless there's going to be some kind of cataclysmic apocalypse, money flows. That will never change. You know, there has to be some way of making money for businesses, and if there is, then they will need funding, and that's what you've got to kind of keep your eye on. You've got to keep on focused on the prize, as it were. Do you have
Yeah,
anything to add to that?
even with like the real estate, real estate is going skyrocket right now in some areas where people are overbidding.
Yeah.
And I talk to wholesalers, I talk to real estate investors, and I would say 95% of them say they have a hard trouble finding deals. And then you get that 5% that say, oh, I've got 4 or 5 projects in the works. I've done 15 deals this year. Those are the guys that I want to talk to, and really send a lot of messaging towards them, because they're still finding deals, so they're the ones that are going to need the funding, instead of, spending my time on somebody that is still doesn't even know how to get their first deal, their first fix and flip, so you got to focus on what's going to get funded, what's going to bring, where you got a better chance of, helping a real estate investor fund a deal, or help a business owner that their business is growing. They're looking for more equipment. They're looking to hire. Those are the ones you want to talk to, not somebody, well, I've got all this debt that I need to refinance. Well, you're not really going to be able to help them out.
Yeah, exactly that. And that kind of comes back to the original point of being the hunter. This is why you've got to go out hunting for stuff and being savvy about what you're doing, because what you're really looking for is the savvy business owner or the savvy investor, because they're thinking in the same sort of ways from their perspective, aren't they? And I think that's where a lot of these brokers, they get it wrong, because to your point, let's say the real estate world, you've got the 95% who really are also spinning their wheels, the 95% of investors or wholesalers that are never going to really make any money. You're after the 5%. But how many brokers out there are just spinning wheels with the 95%, kidding themselves that they've got this activity and things going on, but there's no money there. So I think a lot of the time it's about stepping back and just looking at the bigger picture, where you fit within that bigger picture in that landscape, and therefore where's my audience within that landscape. And then you've got to have the discipline just to ignore everything else, focus on the prize. And you're clearly doing it. It's obviously happening now, and be really cool to see what happens at the end of that sort of 3-month period you set yourself. 700k now, I mean, that it's very I don't want to say too much, I'll tempt fate, I want to touch wood now. Very feasible that you can beat the $1 million mark.
Yeah, it's possible. I do have some in the pipeline, but there's one that will probably go to next year. So, yeah.
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed. Did you is it, just to kind of wrap this up, is there anything that you would want to say to anybody considering this profession of loan brokering? And then obviously, we are Ryan, we do have a training program, so we may as well do a bit of a plug as well. But first and foremost, more about those that are considering the profession itself in these times that we're in. What would you say to them?
If you want to put in the work, it's going to pay off. That's the biggest thing, is putting in the work. And it's not just, it's more than prospecting or finding people, finding leads. It's taking the time to understand the underwriting process. Understanding the product. You can be the best marketing person, but if you don't know what you're selling, or how to even meet the basic requirements to send a deal, you're just going to waste your time and your funding sources' time.
And then to segue that into Ion, because it's a really good point. It's very important, I think, that you choose the right place to learn that stuff, right? So
yeah, I went on my own my first year, built my business on my own. And one of the things that stuck out that you said is you don't know what you don't know. And that was one of my struggles. So having a support team that, not only helped me in my marketing, but also understanding some of the, the underwriting process and in quickly determining what's going to be a viable lead or a viable deal to get funded.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, I mean, just to kind of wrap that whole thing up, guys, if you're watching this and you're doing your due diligence and you kind of have the mind that this is a profession that you want to focus on and move forward in, We do have a training program, and as far as we know, we are the only ones out there that we focus on everything, right, Michael? It's every single piece of it. It's not just the marketing piece; it's all of it, which also includes mindset. We we're here to get deals done. We're here to make money. That's really what it comes down to. And if you're serious about that too, and Michael, here's a good sort of case study for that. There's no reason it can't happen. There's literally no reason at all that that can't happen. So if you want to sort of talk to us about the program, there's a link in the description. Please click that. You can speak to me or one of our colleagues, but we'll walk you through warts and all, exactly how this whole thing works. It's definitely not, and again, Michael would support me. It's not plain sailing, right? It's definitely a journey. So I keep saying it's a journey, and it's a personal journey, and it's definitely one of growth. Actually, I'm saying this. Why don't you say it, Michael? Kind of your journey, and how do you see it for yourself?
Like I said, it took me a while. I mean, it took me on my own. It took me 7 months to get my first deal funded. And
Still beat me.
Going in second year, after my first year, then COVID hit, and things got really difficult. And I always tell people, we all start at different areas. I had no network. I retired as a Marine. I didn't have a network of business owners where, some people do have a network. They're already working with business owners, and some of them do fund, uh, 3 or 4 deals within their first month. But then after that, it's like they don't have much to show for. So, we all start at different levels. And you just, at least for me, it's always wanting to do better,
Yeah.
Wanting to reach more people. And I don't know, like I said, for me, failure wasn't an option, no matter how many times my mind was playing tricks on me. But I knew I needed some type of training, and having that support system of the leadership team, the classes, was really, some of the key to my success today.
Brilliant.
And I just take what I learned and even, look, do my own research. I'm still always learning. I'm learning about sales, learning about marketing, other than what Ion is teaching, because you can't just rely on one source. But it's really, really tough when you go at it alone. You could be part of a Facebook group, but it's not the same as being able to schedule a phone call with somebody who's been doing this a lot longer than you have, bouncing some ideas, what's working, what's not working, looking at your numbers on your, on if you are tracking your numbers. If you're not, you should be tracking your numbers. Yeah. And having, where you at on your monthly goals, where you at on your quarterly goals, as far as prospecting whatever amount you want to get funded for that quarter or year. If you don't have that, then you haven't planned for success. You plan for failure.
I love that. That is the perfect ending. Plan for success, otherwise you're planning for failure, and that's exactly what it is. And that's such a simple statement, guys. But if you look at the industry and you look at the new people that are doing it, most don't pay attention to that statement. Most quit. And that's the other point as well. If you have a clear understanding of your purpose and you have a mentality that you will never quit, then as far as I'm concerned, and Michael should back this up, I don't foresee any scenario where you wouldn't eventually make it. It might take a bit longer because you don't know what you don't know, etc. And you might choose to not get support or whatever it may be. But the bottom line is, this is a real industry. There are real businesses out there. There are investors out there that all need funding. And if we simplify that, if you hunt them down in the right way and you engage with them in the right way, then you're making money, right? It's that straightforward. But it is a personal journey. And I always say to people, you can't see this as a get rich quick scheme. You can't put any pressure on yourself that I have to fund in the first month, or I have to fund in the first 12 weeks, or this is not going to be worth my while. If that's the mindset that you have, don't bother starting in the first place. You've just got to commit and understand it's a journey, and eventually it will start to come together for you. There's just no way that doesn't happen. And I do think that everybody that I speak to that's got that has got success already, or is getting that, like Michael as well. there is the commonality, isn't there, with the mindset piece, that there is a clear goal, there is a I'm never going to quit at this, and there's this kind of like burning drive, I find, that to just get knowledge, to find out the answers, to tweak and understand more and more and more. You know, like you just said, sales, we provide sales training, but it doesn't mean that that's the only source of sales training that you should be looking at. We provide training on real estate and the products, etc., etc. But there are they're more than like just iron to find answers, right? The rate of your growth is really, for me, determined by how much investment of in yourself and improving yourself, which includes the knowledge that you need to know, you're willing to put in to do, right? And for me, when you're starting anything like this, it's got to become an all-consuming thing. If it's just some, you know, people say they're doing it as a side hustle, I don't know anyone that gets anywhere as a side hustle, because the mental capacity required to make this work isn't there, right? I mean, again, perhaps you can kind of support that as well. It's like, it takes a lot, doesn't it?
The way I see it is, you know, my competitors, there's some of my competitors that have been doing this for decades, you know, so they're up here, I'm down here. I gotta consume all the content that I can to get me to their level the quickest possible way. You know, is there a quick way? No, it just takes the time to get out there and do it. So, you know, I'm not going to lie, there's some Saturdays and Sundays where I do some prospecting, you know, and what does it result in? Some scheduled appointments and applications, you know. If I don't got nothing going on, then that's what I'm doing, you know, or you know, reading something in the evening instead of watching TV, you know. I'm doing what I need to do to be successful, and then I'm applying the same thing to becoming a real estate investor, you know, learning what I can and consuming as much content as I can to make me successful. So.
And that's it, guys. I mean, I know that sounds so simple, but it is actually it. It's just having the discipline to turn off Netflix or whatever it is and understand where you're going, what you want to be, what are you missing, therefore, in terms of the knowledge you require to make that happen. And then just go get it, go do what you need to do, and then it will happen for you. That's simple. So I think on that note, Michael, thank you so much again for your time. We'll reconvene again sort of 3 months time, see where things are at, but it's definitely on an upward trajectory right now. And for those of you guys watching, I hope you found this of interest. If you want to talk to us, please click the link. Other than that, we'll see you on the next video.